Well, I had the privilege to fly with the Pope during his trip to Romania from May the 31st to June the 2nd. I was one of the envoys in the Papal Flight. There is a small community of about 60, 70 journalists that are admitted to fly with the Pope. And EWTN has always been part for some years now. It's always a normal flight, but it's a charter flight. So it's a flight that is tailored and made for the Pope. Obviously, since the Pope is a special guest, everything is pretty special over there. So it means that the chairs have a special blanket with the coat of arms of the Pope, and then they give you the map with all the route the Pope is going to do, and then they give you some presents sometimes. This time they give you a perfume.
Thank you.
Even the staff, I must say, they're very kind because they know that they have a special passenger that is the Pope. So that's the difference. It's a business class treatment. So the breakfast was pretty good and pretty huge. We had bacon, we had eggs sandwich, but croissant and berries and some fresh fruit. Generally, the Pope lets journalists eat and eats himself. I imagine that he gets the breakfast as well. Then the Pope, in the way to go, he gives a short speech welcoming the journalists.
Buongiorno e grazie della compagnia.
And then he greets the journalists and the cameramen one by one. I used to write a series of reportages about the places, and I collected the pieces in a small booklet, and this is my usual present to the Pope. And I can talk him about some particular situation I saw before. I told him that there was the Greek Catholic community in Blush that was waiting for him, and that they were expecting him also to talk about some issues that were still ongoing after the liberation from the communism. And this is what I told him this time. So we are there to report. 20,000 people attending Mass, not just in front of. So I generally reported and tried to be in every event. Not all the events are accessible for everyone because there are places where just a restricted number of journalists can go because there is no space in the end. The three main points. Well, I liked a lot the first meeting in the National Orthodox Cathedral in Bucharest. Second thing I liked a lot, the meeting in Blush with the beatification of Greek Catholic martyrs. And then the meeting with young people in Iași, that is the Catholic heart of Romania. It was pretty nice because the Pope stopped a lot talking to people, and he had also this communication. Well, what's interesting is that Pope Francis started to use the press conferences to deliver messages. So he does not limit just to respond to questions. He obviously waits for questions, but he also gives messages. In this case, he also asked at the end of the press conference to pray for Europe.
Pregate per l'Europa. Pregate per l'Europa. Per l'unità.
The press conferences are organized this way. So we are divided in linguistic groups, Italian, German, French, Spanish, so the biggest groups, linguistic groups. But there are two slots, so the first two questions are always for the local journalists that travel with the Pope. In this case, the first two questions were for Romanian journalists. And then we just have a sort of, let's say, a queue, a president's point, so we make a list, and then we go on as long as the Pope says that, or the staff says we can go on. We stop generally about 20 minutes before we land.
Grazie. Grazie.